My stepdaughter spent years disrespecting me, but the moment I started drafting my will, she acted sweet and demanded my house. Instead, she got a private investigator's report exposing every lie she'd ever told. Hello, Reddit I+ here. Name is Martin Reyes. I'm 58 years old, and if I had to describe my life in one sentence, it would be this. I've spent my entire life building things: bridges, homes, companies, and above all, people. By trade, I'm a civil engineer. I've overseen projects that reshaped skylines, roads that stitched together cities, and housing projects that gave people roots. But what I worked hardest to build, the one thing that mattered more than any blueprint or contract, was a family. Life, however, doesn't always follow the plans we draw. My first wife, Elena, was my high school sweetheart. We got married young, built a modest home together, and raised 2 kids, Lucas, now 32, and Isabella, 30. When Elena passed away from breast cancer 15 years ago, it broke me. She was the love of my life, and losing her left a hollow ache in my chest that no bridge or building could fill. For a long time, it was just me and the kids. They were my anchor. We survived together. And then, 6 years later, I met Patricia. She was warm, thoughtful, and exactly the kind of steady soul I didn't know I needed. Patricia had a daughter from her first marriage, Monica, who was 19 at the time. I'll admit, I thought it was fate, 2 broken families coming together to make something whole again. Patricia wanted me to be a role model for Monica. I wanted that too. But Monica had other plans. From the very first day, she treated me like a stranger trespassing in her home. She didn't hide it either. She never called me Martin, let alone Dad. To her, I was always my mom's husband. I didn't push. Instead, I helped quietly, paying for her college applications, covering the down payment on her first car, and even hauling her boxes into her first dorm. I told myself that maybe, someday, she'd understand that I wasn't trying to replace her father. I was just trying to be there. But Monica never softened. She kept me at arm's length for 2 decades. Meanwhile, my kids grew up, stayed close, married kind partners, and blessed me with grandchildren who call me Papa. With Lucas and Isabella, there was no question. I was family. With Monica, I was just convenient. For years, Monica barely called. The only time I'd hear about her was when Patricia mentioned she needed money. But then, 6 years ago, Monica got engaged. Out of nowhere, she started calling me directly. She invited us to dinner. She hugged me at the door. She even started calling me Dad in front of Patricia, and I knew why. She wanted me to pay for her dream wedding, and against my better judgment, I did. Patricia was glowing, thrilled to see her daughter finally coming around, and I didn't have the heart to ruin that for her. But once the honeymoon was over, so was the act. The calls stopped. The visits vanished. Monica drifted back to her cold orbit, until her first baby was born. Then she was back again. Not for love. For diapers, cribs, and help with rent. It became a pattern. Disappear until she needed something, then reappear with a fake smile. And Patricia, she always forgave. A year ago, I had a minor heart scare. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to make me sit down and think seriously about my future, and what would happen when I was gone. I wasn't rich, but I'd done well. I owned our home with Patricia, a tidy set of investments, and one very special piece of property. The first house Elena and I bought. That old house meant everything. Lucas and Isabella grew up there. Elena painted the kitchen walls herself. Every corner was a memory. I couldn't bear to sell it after she died, so I rented it out. When Patricia and I discussed our wills, we agreed. Joint assets, our shared savings and current house, would be split 3 ways between Lucas, Isabella, and Monica. Personal assets, the old house and my private savings, would go only to Lucas and Isabella. Patricia understood. She never once suggested otherwise. But Monica, she had other ideas. Somehow, Monica found out, and suddenly, she transformed. She called me, invited me to dinner, showed up at our house with her kids, just to spend time with Grandpa. Her husband Ethan, a man who usually avoided eye contact, suddenly slapped me on the back and called me Dad, like we'd been lifelong pals. It was almost laughable. And then came the real ask. At a barbecue, Monica pulled me aside, face full of fake sincerity. Dad, she said, her voice dripping with sugar. I've been thinking, wouldn't it be beautiful if my kids could grow up in that old house of yours? I mean, it's family history. It should stay with family, right? I stared at her. She wasn't just asking for something valuable. She was asking for the one piece of Elena I still had. Monica, I said, steady. That house is for Lucas and Isabella. It's where they grew up. It's their mother's home. That's not up for discussion. Her smile cracked. Her eyes went cold. Wow, she snapped. So I'll never really be part of this family, will I? You're still punishing me for not pretending you were my dad. And just like that, the fake kindness ended. From then on, Monica went on the attack. She flooded our family group chat with long messages about being excluded. She told relatives I was favoring my biological kids. She knew Patricia was her weak point, and she hammered at it. She cried to her mother on the phone, begged, accused, and manipulated. I could see Patricia's resolve crumbling. That's when I hired a private investigator. It didn't take long. Within weeks, I had Ethan's full history: bankruptcies, failed business ventures, and a shady little LLC that once tried to flip land and lost everything. He wasn't just in Monica's ear, he was orchestrating the whole scheme. That house wasn't just a home to them. It was their lottery ticket. So I set my trap. I staged a fake appraisal of the old house, deliberately inflating its value with talk of historical designation and unique architecture. I left the paperwork where I knew Patricia would see it. Sure enough, Monica got word, and she pounced. Within weeks, Ethan and Monica showed up at the rental house, waving a forged notarized document and claiming to be the new landlords. They told my tenants to pay rent directly to them. Luckily, my tenants were sharp. They didn't let them in. They called me. And their Ring camera caught the whole exchange. Ethan threatening them with, "You'll regret not cooperating." That was it. They had gone from greedy to criminal. I brought Patricia into my office. I laid everything out: the PI report, the fake appraisal, the threatening texts, and finally, the Ring footage. Her face went pale. The denial was gone. She finally saw her daughter and son-in-law for what they were, not just selfish, but dangerous. Together we took action. My lawyer filed a cease and desist. We warned Monica and Ethan that if they continued, we'd pursue criminal charges, but I didn't stop there. I transferred the old house into an irrevocable trust for Lucas and Isabella. It was no longer mine to give. No lawsuit could touch it. No manipulation could pry it away. And as for Monica, I had my lawyer draft a new will. She was completely disinherited. To drive the point home, I sent a final family email. After considerable harassment and fraud, the Elm Street house has been placed in trust for Lucas and Isabella. Monica Reyes and her descendants are hereby disinherited. The only inheritance Monica will receive is the enclosed invoice from the private investigator who uncovered her lies. I attached the bill. The fallout was immediate. Monica tried calling Patricia in a rage, but Patricia, finally free of the guilt, hung up. Relatives who had taken Monica's side quietly disappeared from the conversation. Ethan and Monica, they went silent. And me, for the first time in years, I felt peace. I finished building 2 cherrywood grandfather clocks I'd been crafting in my workshop. One for Lucas, one for Isabella, a symbol of the time we'd shared, and of the legacy I actually wanted to leave. A few weeks later, a letter arrived. No return address, just Monica's handwriting. It read, "I hope you're happy." I set it down, looked at the pictures of my grandkids on the wall, and whispered aloud to no one in particular, "I am." And for the first time in years, I truly meant it. After Monica's letter, there was silence. No calls, no surprise visits, no manipulation. For months, life in the Reyes household was calm. It was strange at first. Patricia didn't quite know what to do with the quiet. For years, her phone had buzzed with Monica's guilt trips, tears, and demands. Now it sat on the table, still and silent. One evening, as we sat out on the back porch watching the sunset, Patricia said softly, "It feels like I lost my daughter." I looked at her, choosing my words carefully. "No," I said, "you didn't lose her. She lost herself, and she tried to take us down with her." Patricia sighed, tears welling in her eyes. I thought I was helping her all these years, but I was just feeding the fire. For the first time, she stopped defending Monica, and in that moment, I realized something. My marriage had survived the storm, stronger even. The clocks were finished. One for Lucas, one for Isabella. Handmade cherry wood, polished to a rich shine. German clockworks ticking softly, steady as a heartbeat. On the back of each, I engraved a message. For Lucas, the bridge between the past and the future. May you always carry strength. For Isabella, the home in my heart. May you always carry love. When I gave them the clocks, both my children cried. Not because of the wood or the craftsmanship, but because they knew these weren't just objects. They were symbols. Proof that I had thought of them, worked for them, and left them something no one could steal. My grandkids loved them too. They'd press their ears to the wood, listening to the tick-tock like it was magic. And I realized then, legacy isn't money. Legacy isn't property. Legacy is time, love, and memory. The old house was secured. The clocks were finished. My children were cared for. My wife finally saw the truth. For the first time in decades, I felt light, but peace never lasts forever. About 6 months later, a letter arrived from Monica's lawyer. It was short, almost pitiful. She was threatening to contest the will. My attorney laughed when he read it. Martin, she doesn't have a case. The trust is ironclad. And that no contest clause? If she even breathes near probate court, she walks away with less than nothing. We never even had to file a response. The letter was just noise. One last gasp of desperation. And then, silence again. 2 years passed. Patricia and I grew older together. Lucas and Isabella built their own lives, and my grandchildren filled my home with laughter. Then one summer evening, Patricia got a message. Monica wanted to meet for coffee. Patricia looked at me, torn. Do you think I should go? I shook my head. Pat, you've already been through this. She doesn't want reconciliation. She wants access. To you, to us, to what she thinks she's owed. Patricia sat there quietly for a long moment. Then she deleted the message. That was the first time she chose us over Monica, and it mattered. The years rolled on. I kept working on small woodworking projects, little heirlooms for the grandkids. Boxes, picture frames, even a toy rocking horse. Sometimes I'd drive past the old house. The tenants kept it in good shape. And every time I saw it, I smiled. I knew that one day, Lucas and Isabella would decide what to do with it. Keep it, sell it, restore it. It was theirs, not Monica's. I never saw Monica again. She faded from our lives, a shadow we had finally outgrown. And that was enough. A few months ago, I turned 60. We had a big party. Family, friends, grandkids running around the backyard. Laughter in every corner of the house. Patricia by my side, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. At one point, Isabella hugged me and whispered, Dad, thank you for protecting us, for protecting Mom's memory, for everything. That night, as I lay in bed listening to the faint tick of the clock in the hallway, I thought back to Monica's bitter words in her last letter. I hope you're happy. And I smiled, because the truth is, I really, truly was.